really," she replied, properly. "Oh, but he did." She was tiny with her big green eyes, and they rode the train for over an hour. She lived at the very tip, the very southern tip, of the entire sprawling metropolis, and when they got out of the subway, Mark had to catch his breath. The rows of buildings, graying socialist high-rises, 9 stories, 13 stories, 17 stories, each with its crumbling balconies, each grayer than the next, stretched into the horizon like a massed column. Mark was terrified. "You live here?" he said to the girl, to Sasha, immediately regretting it. "Yes," she said. It was just a matter of time after that before he declared himself. 3 years later, they were in New York. So they saved. Mark cheated, a little. They had a 4Runner, a present from his father, and Mark would drive it to the big pathmark on Northern Boulevard. Once there, he achieved the serenity of a Zen master. The people of Queens ran around this way and that, their shopping carts like externalized stomachs. Others had coupons, and carefully they held them like counterfeiting experts, up to the items they hoped to save on, to make sure they were the ones. Mark never did. He had emptied himself of any attachment to specific foods. The only items he saw were the items already on sale. In this way, he kept his calm, he tried new foods, and he saved. They kept a budget. At the beginning of the week, they gave themselves $70 for food and transport. Impossible? Basically impossible, yes, but not if you never go for drinks at a bar, never walk into a restaurant, and never ever buy an item of clothing not at the Salvation Army on Spring Street and Lafayette. Sasha herself was perpetually amazed. "I see girls in there," she reported. "They have $300 shoes, but they are looking for a jacket, a blouse. They would like to look like me." "Whereas you already do," said Mark. "Tak," said Sasha. "Imенно tak." Exactly. And slowly, Mark's Russian was improving. He made his meager living now by translating industrial manuals into English. Sasha helped. The rest of the time, he studied Soviet history and wondered if he should apply to graduate school. Sasha worked at a gallery and painted watercolors. She thought they should have children. It was 1998, and the rest of the world was rich. Their friends came over, and Sasha fed them. All together, they argued and argued. There was so much to argue about. Val looked through their art books and gave talks about the painters, about Goya, about Rembrandt. Sasha told him about the Russian icon painters, about the profound influence of religious anti-representationalism on Russian art. Tom explained the latest political developments. Sam talked about Israel and the writing world, who was publishing in the New American, who was publishing in Debate. Mark listened always and observed. It was clear what some of them would do with their lives. It was less clear about the others. In the case of Mark, for example, it was unclear. Occasionally, he and Sasha had terrible fights. She was so quiet, she was so small. One time, they met up in the city to watch a free movie in Bryant Park. Mark was already at the library on 42nd Street, and Sasha was at home, so she was to bring some food. But she was in a hurry and forgot. Trying to hide his annoyance, Mark led them around Midtown looking for a place to eat. Finally, they walked into a deli. The salad bar was closed. The sandwiches cost $6.50, $7. Mark concluded to himself that he would have a Snickers bar, but Sasha should eat. "That's all right," she said. "I don't need anything." "You need to eat something," he insisted. "It's a long movie." "No, I'm fine." "Order a sandwich!" "Bоже mой," she said. "My God," and without another word walked out the door. He followed her quietly and Snickersless. They did not go to the movie. Things like that. And sometimes Sasha would lie in bed for days and refuse to get up. But this passed. It usually passed. And anyway, they were in this together. In an emergency, it was understood Mark would be able to find a real job, so they were pledged to avoid emergency. Or maybe only Mark was pledged to avoid it. There were other issues, of course. There are always other issues. But most of all, Mark and Sasha and their friends worried about history and themselves. They read and listened and wrote and argued. What would happen to them? Were they good enough, strong enough, smart enough? Were they hard enough, mean enough?